now continue with the question and answers that our community members were kind enough to send across. Thank you so much. And this is another significant question, especially in the present day and age. And that goes like this: how to deal with repeated failures in attempts to get into married life, especially when there are so many so near yet so far cases. Right? It's a very unfortunate state or an unfortunate reality or time that we are living in, where there is a significant shift in our attitude and perception of the institution of marriage, and not in favor of that institution. Right? So let's unpack this a bit. Okay. So if I have to again say what this is all about, what we will deal with is not so much about how to deal with the institution of marriage itself, because that's a very complex phenomena. We'll look at why things have changed for a little bit, and then we'll talk about how to deal with rejection, because I think essentially that's what this is all about. Right? So now I was looking at a lot of stats, I was looking at some papers, I was reading some articles to understand the present day trends as far as marriage goes, in terms of marital age, in terms of what the attitudes of the genders are, right, and what is possibly the distribution in terms of when people get married, right. And one surprising underlying trend I found was, which a paper beautifully summarized, is the attitude of men towards marriage hasn't changed much in the past few decades, whereas that of women has changed significantly. Right now, as much as we'd like to make this gender neutral, we have to acknowledge that the past 40, 50, 60 years have made it a lot easier, or a lot better for women in terms of their ability to come out to the world and to carve a niche out for themselves in an area that were originally earmarked only for men. Right? So today we all have equal opportunity workplaces. We all work together a lot. The gender aspect of itself is itself now almost not present. Right? We don't really. We just work with people. That's it. Okay, and this has been made possible thanks to a whole lot of factors. Right? The technological advancements, globalization, our familiarity with varying cultures and what they allow, our ability to take in certain positives or certain things that empower us more. That these are some aspects. The availability of health and hygiene products, improved health care, improved facilities to, let's say, have children much later in our age. Then also things like the availability of greater disposable income in the hands of young people today, right, as compared to what people would have had 30, 40, 50 years ago. All of these have contributed towards a general attitude that it's okay to delay marriage, because even if we get married later in life, we can still have children, we can still start a nice family, and more importantly, let's get married once we are kind of satisfied with enjoying life, as we put it. Okay, so this is one part which is causing delays. Now, next part, let's say people are ready to get married, then starts the evaluation phase. When the union comes, it's about evaluation. Back in the days when we were just living a very simple existence, it was important for people to get married in time, because it was not only about the propagation of species or coming together in a timely manner or being able to have children at a healthy age, where it was, there was no IVF back in the days, for instance, right? So all of this kind of defined when we would get married. But now it is all, and then there was another aspect, right? Sorry. We lived in smaller communities, much smaller circles, which is not the case today. And so it was quite easy to ascertain the level of commitment or level of genuineness of a person, what the antecedents are. Is that guy a good guy? Is this lady a good lady? Is it good? What kind of a family do they come from? And it was all also arranged, right? Mostly designed or arranged marriages is what we went in for. But today, our scope is pretty much anywhere on this planet. Right, today a guy sitting in India could actually seek an alliance with a girl in Scandinavia who's actually working there but is of Indian origin. So where is the commonality? And the other aspect that was quite dominant in our culture, or still is dominant in many ways, is, let's say we are seeing that an alliance is good enough. The rest of the paperwork, such as horoscope and all of that, have gone well. So we want to inquire about that person. Back in the days, they could simply walk into an office, tell the peon or somebody that, hey, we are seeking an alliance for our daughter with this guy or our son with this lady. How is that person? Right? But today, in the present world where, like I said, the span is pretty much the entire globe, and also because, let's say, can you do the same thing in an information technology park in a company today? You cannot get past the security desk. No one is going to give us information. So these things have become much more difficult. And so people have started looking for things like, okay, do you own a house? Right? Do you own a vehicle of your own? Do you have an education from a premier institute? Now, I'm not condoning any of these, right? Just somebody could be an absolute gem without any of these. But then these are actually the only ways by which we can ascertain, I believe personally, whether a person is able to make a significant long-term commitment that they can stick to. So let's say I'm committing to buy a house before I'm getting married, which means I'm going to throw less money. I'm responsible. I'm going to throw less money at things that are not essential. And I'm saying I'm taking a 15-year, 20-year commitment to do something, and I'm going to stay responsible, stay in a job for the duration. So somebody who's actually saying, if let's say it's about somebody's evaluating me, they're going to say, okay, this guy is a bit of a seems to be a responsible guy, so we can safely trust this person. Okay, so unwittingly, this is becoming an indirect evaluation of our ability to stay committed to serious aspects of our life. I think the same can go about, let's say, pursuing an education from a premier institute, because that calls for a lot of commitment on our part, a lot of effort on our part, a lot of personal sacrifices. So will this person go the extra mile for something that is as valuable, which the institution of marriage is? Okay, so we leave all this aside. So when all of this happens, let's say when we start out, it becomes a case of, let's say some girl's family reject me saying, oh, the horoscope did not match, or we expected that this person will have an MBA from Indian Institute of Management, but he doesn't have it. So then I say, my education did not go with their expectation, or my horoscope did not match, or there was no compatibility. But when this becomes routine, right, every time there is always some reason to push back and say, no, this will not work, I go from my horoscope is not good enough, or my horoscope is incompatible, to I am not good enough. What is mine becomes I, right? Something about me is not working. No, I am not working. I am not good enough. And when this sets in, again, it's a question of an unhealthy core belief, right? None of us are useless. Okay, so that happens. And when rejection happens, this kind of reinforces, see, I'm useless, I'm not good enough, right? Or then we start projecting it on the rest of the world. The world is worthless. People have no morals, no values. They're all money-minded, because it's an understandable frustration that people are rejecting us for flimsy reasons. And we fail to see that a total stranger has to have some way by which they can evaluate our, being a safe fit for a lifelong commitment. Right? Nobody plans to get married and then divorce in a few years, right? People want to stay married for life. So we are not able to see that. Okay, so how do we get there? Okay, one of the important things is, in such situations, we are actually emotionally overwhelmed. The longer we have spent in this area, the more emotionally overwhelmed we are, the more frustrated, the more angry, and honestly, the greater the anger, the greater the feeling of shame within ourselves, or probably guilt that we have not done enough in our lives. Right? So when all of this is there, it is important to talk to somebody who understands how they can help you navigate through this phase and reduce the emotional load, okay, before we actually go on to certain other things. So once this is done, let's say you talk to a therapist who's going to reflect with you and make you see that probably it's not about you. And you start thinking, oh, it isn't about me. I am not at the heart of the problem. I am not the problem. Right? So that is called centering. I'm putting myself at the heart of every failure, every problem. So they might say it's not about you. And then they will teach certain things, like what one popular technique is decentering. Take yourself away from the center. Look at the problem as the problem. Look at the person as the person. Okay? And then we can do a self-appraisal. There are certain things which we could change. For instance, let's say I'm in the habit of binge eating, so I'm overweight and I look unhealthy. That is definitely something for which I can be rejected, and I can change. No harm in that. But if somebody says, oh, you're 6'4" tall, you're too tall for my daughter, I cannot go and saw my leg off to become a few inches shorter. Just for the sake of getting married, I cannot become a cripple. Right? So that's not going to be changeable. Likewise, there are other things. Somebody might say, oh, you don't have a degree from a premium institute. Okay? Probably I come from a very poor family which could not make ends meet. And for me, having come this far and secured some graduation from a college itself is as good as a boy from an affluent family having completed education from a premier institute. So we can tell them, look, this is where I came from. Okay, I'm proud of what I've done. I've put in as much, if not more, effort than any other comparable person. But then I can still, let's say wherever I work, there is a tie-up with IIM or BITS or something like that, some premier institute, and I can pursue a course if that's what makes you feel proud. And if they still reject, it's about them, it is not about us. So there are areas where we can strike a balance like that. Okay, so we can do the self-appraisal, and what this will do at this point is it will tell us what expectations did we enter the marriage market with, what were the expectations or realities of the marriage market, what is the difference between the two, what kind of emotions did I go through, what have I overcome, and now we say this is what I can realistically offer. I had 5 expectations, I'm willing to tone down 3 of them, I'm just going back with whatever 2 I have left because those are core values I believe and I cannot change them. Right, or core realities of mine which I cannot change. Then there are certain things which you accept are realistic for which I am willing to change. Or should I look at an entirely different segment of people? Right, have I been targeting the wrong market? Because I mean, as much as we'd like to not use such language, it's about fitment at the end of the day, right? We should know what our target audience is in order for us to increase our chances of success. So if we are able to do all of this, no matter what happens with the marital market, of course, our prospects are going to increase. The probability of our getting married is much higher now. It's not, again, there is no guarantee that it will happen 100%, right? There are various other factors, but we are going to increase our chances of being selected rather than being rejected and pushed away. So, and over and above that, we are going to have a fair understanding of who we are, what we are all about, and we'll be more self-accepting. We'll be more grounded in ourselves, and we will not put ourselves at the heart of every single problem or failure that we encounter in this experience, right? So very, very important that we remember all of this and we start accepting the fact that we cannot be God, right? If I can oversimplify that, right? We are not going to be perfect in every department. Nobody is going to make a beeline for us, whoever we are. And at the end of the day, that doesn't mean I am unworthy, right? So we'll get to that level of clarity. So let's remember that. And actually, this is how we have to deal with rejection, and possibly that self-appraisal can also help us to deal more effectively with the marriage market. I hope this was useful. Thank you.